In this video, I'll be doing a brief history in my own words and introducing you to new words and concepts like Stockholm Syndrome and cognitive dissonance. Looking back, it was in 2015. My mom, who I now know as ASPD, has signed with shady people to submit me to biological experiments, who at the start just considered me promising. A young ENFJ developing into an adult. I was 22. I just lost my job and suffered depression. Shortly after, I found a new job. The person my mother associated with was allegedly some ex-general, not in active duty. I've discovered them in 2017 by applying myself analytically and keeping my cool. They had technologies that were illegal and were in my electrical devices. That of some I could prove. Some bad apples that happened to be in the shady group of people turned out to be psychopaths and decided them to be illegally controlled and dominated, whilst they find a way to mend the entire me finding out about them. It was rock and tumbling, and they were trying to find a way forward with a compromised direction. They've applied themselves and found themselves employing some people who weren't qualified and who turned out to be ASPD as well. These unqualified people, who turned out to be a group of Filipinos, were practicing all manners of crowd mentality, as the situation was made notorious, as they were effectively trafficking. Yes, human trafficking. The people receiving the traffic, willingly or not, inched into my person, having traits of a messiah. Evidence of those also collected. Currently, at the time of this recording, this matters less to me than the reality of the terrorist syndicate. Anyway, the dysfunction of me not willing to work for them by effect, those people decided to elect the pathocracy instead and sabotage everything. Pathocracy sabotages everything. Andrea Lobuchowski, Political Putterology. From 2017 hence, the pathocracy who's using advanced technologies despite their inadequate qualifications, for example meth addicts exploiting minors 15 to 22 years old, this was in 2018 to 2024, and effectively trying to host people group by group and extort and swindle people off their money, selling a one-sided narrative they're hell-bent on achieving. All is sustained by supply they get from the situation. Financial supply, emotional, psychological, and social. Yes, the paraphilic mania has been extorting and social climbing locally for a good 6 years in perpetua. It's parasitic, a parasocial relation where he gets his balls off at a daily basis. And yes, he hadn't addressed me before as a hostage, or bihag in gaslighting me to PTSD, panic disorders, trauma bonding, cognitive dissonance, and Stockholm Syndrome. They're mostly incompetent, as some professionals would recommend. It's diluted. I shall accept the denomination of pathocracy for a system of government, wherein a small pathological minority takes control over a society of normal people. If an individual in a position of political power is a psychopath, he or she can create an epidemic of psychopathology in people who are not essentially psychopathic. Under these conditions, no area of social life can develop normally, whether in economics, culture, science, technology, administration, etc. Pathocracy progressively paralyzes everything. Andrea Lobuchowski, Political Putterology. Now, I've gathered evidence of their digital presence as they're hacking electronic devices. Apparently, they got some initial technological infrastructure from the initial years, and has done all their worth in the effort of gaining social status of professional, something to that effect, to just pure parasitic extortion. The artifacts I've gathered varied from recording people who they're manipulating. Revised Penal Code 3815, Article 11, or justifying circumstances, allows me to do this in defense of forcible felonies. So I've got evidence, albeit not curated, as every time I play it back, seems like they can completely adulterate the playback. Evidence of their digital hacking or cybercrimes nonetheless, and then some. But the current impossible task of getting clear evidence of their other technologies, which allows them to be invisible, talk to people around me whilst I can't hear them, have a line directly connected to my psyche, like a phone I can't drop, as they host people to be an audience to my personage for extortion and record me inside my private quarters. Most of all, haven't been met with a means for it to be recorded. So from careers, communities, relations, or just studying something, or just playing games, buying grocery, pathocracy indeed paralyzes everything. It's sabotaging. Most of my days are being spent being attacked by the pathocracy hosted by their means, with slander, devaluation, and social climbing. Them asserting that they're the dominant character, and thus justly controlling my personage and sabotaging my prerogatives. All what you could expect from a pathocratic narcissist. A paraphilia, that like of Jeffrey Dahmer's, including all sorts of sexual voyeurism and outright perversion. They sell hacked artifacts, pornography. I didn't give permission to release such and such. What they do, they would desperately entrench themselves figuratively into a location where I'm located and try to narcissistically groom people into subservience and host their show in that location and attempt to control my environment. My mother, being ASPD, tries to either do PR of her goodwill or help the pathocracy swindle people in the smear campaign for their social climate. She's also sparingly on that technology that has a direct line to my psyche, grouped together with syndicate members of one particular race, which is hers, Filipinos. Despite this having an English-American-based origin, the characters in this line are 99% Filipino, and they're all speaking Tagalog. They're purporting that I'm duly compensated to the people they're swindling, as they are paying my mother and my mother had signed, despite already discovering prior the laws that nullified their entire validation. It's human trafficking, it's war crimes by biological experiments, it's slavery, and the least of all, labor violations. I'm not compensated, just to be clear. Labor Code 105, direct payment, if it's to be based on. I didn't give any written consent that proceeds are to be directed to my mother. The psychos delude themselves anyway. Some, already familiar with the story, knows they're psychos, a pathocracy. So the crazies are singling out those that doesn't know yet and take advantage of them and swindle them for their sustenance. It's not only a job. They built themselves a culture of predation and now calls it sport. That, yes, sustains their dependencies. Every 10 or 20 minutes of my living day is a new person or a familiar person being made an audience to my personage. That were already familiar people being hosted who's debasing their social climbing. Apparently, they pay for access. With a neurological exploit, a flex of modern technology, even my dreams are being made into real estate and exploited without any discretion. It's effectively a mode to attack my subconscious and permit my faculties to be subjected into a state of duress while I'm awake. I steady on as much as I can, waiting for the Filipinos to arrest or legally neutralize effectively a terrorist syndicate. Thank you for watching. This is a heavy topic and I understand it might not be easy to take in. In the description below, you'll find links to all the evidence and resources I mentioned, including charts and my Twitter account. If you've been affected by something similar, you are not alone. There are resources available to help. You can find some link in the description as well. Remember, stay strong and keep fighting. If you'd like to support me, there are links in the description as well. I'll see you in the next one.